Hey guys, I'm here in my Imaginarium, otherwise known as my sewing room, and I'm trying to figure out what to wear for Halloween. This is something I'm constantly thinking about, not because I like Halloween. Halloween has a lot of stuff that I don't really care about, but I love dressing up. I love pretending. I used to do it a lot more before I got married and had the kid. And there's just a lot of effort to do it now. My closet over there has a lot of outfits, and I have some that I need to put away. This is a dress I painted at the bottom here. It was for Disney bounding. That's using your everyday clothes to dress in a similar style that a Disney character would dress in. Joy from Inside Out. The blue little fireworks there, flowers at the bottom. So I painted that. We're gonna try to make some room in here and see if I can squish things. I Disney bounded. I made a big old circle skirt for Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't really like the movie. It has some scary parts that I just don't appreciate. But I thought it'd be a fun skirt to make. I've got my medieval skirt from the 1600s and the hat piece that goes with that. Back in the closet it goes. Alice in Wonderland. She's got an apron. There it is. Alice in Wonderland with her apron. That was fun to make. Mostly because I glued a lot of sequins onto it and I really like the shiny. So that's kind of inspired by the Disney movies. It's not exactly the Alice costume, but it's inspired. My Christmas tree. Christmas is coming! Christmas is something I can really get excited about. And Advent, the season before Christmas, starts right after Thanksgiving. That's like next month. But I don't think I want to be a Christmas tree for Halloween this year. So we'll put that one back. I did, because I don't quite have enough space in my sewing room, pull some of my costume boxes from the garage. This costume box, looks like it has some more of my history clothes. I have some friends who are teachers. One teaches 5th grade, the other one teaches high school history. And if you haven't come to it yet, 5th graders, you start learning about the beginning of America, colonialism, in the 1770s. And so I have my stays. They would have worn these under their outfits. And some aprons. Some fans. They did not have air conditioning or electricity to power overhead like ceiling fans, so people carried fans around with them. In the Victorian era, also fans were really popular. So I have some fans, a really big baggy shirt. This is an undershirt that they would have worn underneath, and then, where'd it go? My shift. This is the shift, and then the stays would have gone over that, and then they would have worn their dress. And I don't really have a lot of guy clothing because I don't ever dress up as a guy. I've got some trim in here. It's made modern. Probably, does it have a date on here? That'd be funny. It doesn't. It's 1980s, 1970s, probably. But it's done in a style that would have been similar to what they would have used in the 1700s. So I have that so I can show the kids some different parts of colonial life. And when I dress up as a historical character, there's my underwear. They had a lot of clothing. I become a different person when I dress up to do assembly, or I don't even know the right word for it right now, an exhibition. When I go to a classroom to teach them about the colonial times, I become a different person. I either put on all of my colonial clothes like I would have worn on the farm, and I call myself Goody Wendell. Today we would say Mrs. Wendell, but Goody just means like housewife, good housewife. And I would tell them about life on the farm using my first last name, my maiden name, Goody Wendell, Mrs. Wendell. Or I would dress up in my fancy clothes. They're here at the bottom. My fancy shoes have little buckles on them. They're actually kind of sharp right on that side. And my fancy skirt and my fancy dress. Let's pull those out. The fancy ones have a lot of lace and trim. They're still a pretty simple style, but the material is nicer when I am Lady Lovelace than when I am Goody Wendell on the farm. You don't want to wear your nice fabric on the farm. My handkerchief. They would do a lot of embroidery and stuff. So I try to have things around me that make my story more accurate, that will give integrity to the story I'm telling. We'll do this. It's kind of like a mask because I'm not Elizabeth Lovelace when I go to the classroom. I try to become that other person. And I try to make that other person as real and true as she would have been if I was living 200 years ago in the 1700s, 300 years ago. 250, something like that. Goody Wendell does a lot of sewing and baking. Everybody knew how to sew back then because you needed to know how to sew your own buttons, and they didn't really do buttons. But you needed to know how to repair your stuff. People did a lot more hands-on things because they didn't have the fancy... Totally lost my words. Anyhow, New Thought. Everybody did things for themselves. But in the city, people still did a lot of stuff for themselves. But if you had extra money, you could have other people make your clothes for you. A mantua maker, a dressmaker. That is what Lady Lovelace does. Women weren't allowed to have jobs back then. They weren't allowed to have businesses. If your husband had a business, you could help with his business, but it was his. Lady Lovelace is a young lady who got some training from her dad. Her dad also worked in the fashion industry because the men would go to a tailor. The ladies would go to a mantua maker. They kept the stores separate, not like Walmart or Target where you can find everything for everyone. And so as Lady Lovelace, I get to wear fancier clothes. And when I'm wearing the fancier clothes, I stand up a little bit nicer. I use fancier words because I would have been educated and I would have known a lot more about the world, imports and exports, and where I got my fabric from. Goody Wendell is more concerned if her apple orchard is growing the right way and whether they'll have enough harvest to be able to trade for some of the other things that they need. Those historical masks that I wear show an aspect of life that used to be lived. It's not so much that we use those masks to hide, although I think some people might. If they really, really, really like that time period and wish things were the way it was, they might want to work at a place like Riley's Farm or Colonial Williamsburg, where it's 1770 all the time. Everything is done like it was 250 years ago. That's not who I am. It's fun to pretend. It's fun to go into a classroom so people can learn better what the history may have been like. But in the end, I'm still me, and I still have to be true to me. If I were to try to come up with a character who is more of a villain or someone who is mean in that historical time, it wouldn't ring true. It wouldn't have the authenticity or the integrity behind it, because it would be outside of who I am. Remember, integrity is learning to be true to who God made us to be. I like teaching, I like sharing, I like creating. Being a historical person puts all of those together to show someone else a glimpse of history that they might not otherwise have. So if you are thinking of Halloween, you might want to think of a historical person. Who do you resonate with in history? That's a good question. There's a lot of good heroes from the Bible all the way on up to current modern people. I love you guys. I hope you have a great Saturday. And thanks for joining me as I rambled on about a little bit of history. I'll talk to you later. Bye.